Ladies and gentlemen, this is so exciting. Health Matters. We've got an incredible guest with us today, a trailblazer, an inspiring human being in the world of rugby. Aimee Barrett Theron has shattered stereotypes and broken barriers as one of the top female rugby referees on the international stage. Having officiated numerous prestigious matches, including the Women's Rugby World Cup, the Super Rugby Sevens, Aimee continues to pave the way for aspiring female referees and showcases the importance of diversity in the sport. Without further ado, ladies and gents, Aimee Barrett Theron. Hello, Aimee.
Oh, good morning, Ryan. Thanks for that introduction.
It's so lekker to chat with you. I know you've got a very busy schedule and the world of rugby sees you traveling around it almost 365 days. There's no off-season and on-season for you. Am I right in saying that?
Yeah, our season is never ending. We are involved in so many competitions, from Women's International to Varsity Cup, Currie Cup, URC, EBCR. Weekends are I wish. We could have some braais, we could have some social time, but it's time for work and I love what I do.
Speaking of which, where did that passion and love come from? Where did your journey and your passion for rugby begin?
I think it was the 95 World Cup for me.
Okay.
A massive moment, just, obviously South Africa winning it, and I just fell in love with the sport. Saturdays were rugby days on the couch watching, Currie Cup and Super Rugby and all of those things. And I just love sport. I love being outdoors. I played as many sports as I could, but rugby always seemed to be the winner.
Yeah.
Obviously, being a woman in sport, rugby wasn't the direction that we were generally pushed to or allowed to go into. Sure. I wanted to play in primary school and was told no. So I started with touch rugby in high school, and that really ignited the fire into my 15s and 7s playing career and into my reffing career.
Because I was going to say, we share friends that play women's touchies that are incredible, the best in the world. They've been competing for years. But it's one thing, obviously, also playing and then officiating. I always think of the South Africa. We've got 20 or 25 million referees every Saturday. They're all in front of the TV and they all think they know best. They all want to shout at the screen and at the refs and carry on. When did you decide that, listen, officiating games is that, listen, I've played the game, you've played the game, but now you want to grab the ref and you want to get involved with running the show, as it were?
Yeah, I think the first step for me was I had a wonderful playing career, and I moved onto the academic side. I got my master's in sports science, my honors in biokinetics, and I just
you think that that's pretty, that's time consuming.
Yeah. And I still had this hunger for rugby, hunger to be involved, especially getting women involved.
Yes.
And I ref touch rugby as well. I ref a couple of the other sports that I played. I always had this deep passion to understand the game in a different way and understand the rules and laws, and how initially when I was a player, understanding the laws helped me be a better player.
Yes.
And then I started to see just more opportunities. It was the 2014 World Cup. A good friend of mine, Amy Peritron, ref the final. And I just thought that is an absolutely brilliant way to stay involved with the game, but give back to the game that gave me a bursary to Stellenbosch, that allowed me to travel the world. Obviously they say without the referee we can't have a game, so
absolutely. It's
an important role, but quite difficult to cross over to the dark side, should I say.
Absolutely. And
it's easily one of the hardest jobs I've ever done in my entire life. I regret every trip I made towards a referee. It's you just see the game in a different way, and there's so much going on in your mind when you reffing. I just love that, the mental challenge, the emotional challenge, the physical challenge of always being up with the ball and making the right decision for the game.
Sure. I want to talk about now, because listening to your life so far, and we got to the point now of where you've now chosen to pursue a career in refereeing. Every obstacle has been an obstacle. There's challenges that are really, I think, off-putting for a lot of women in sport. They get to a level where they've reached a point, or rather at that career or that decision where they've gone, I can't actually get any further. I can't get into this because it's dominated by men, because those stereotypes are still very much active. They're very much there. You've come through this career and you've gone, right, now I'm venturing into a place where there aren't many women. In actual fact, you can count them on your hand globally. And you're going, this is what I want to do, and I want to prove. And you not only have you said, this is what I'm going to do, you've done it, and you're the very best of the best. What were those challenges? Were you faced? I mean, what was that? Was there kickback at all when you said, listen, I want to get behind the whistle, and this is what I want to do?
Yeah, it's been an interesting, adventure.
Yeah.
Ups and downs. I think when I first started, obviously playing for the national team, I had quite an advantage, and the team I started with Western Province Rugby, and Ben scooped me up quite quickly.
Yeah.
And because I had that background, people were excited to see where it could go because it was brand new, and I had a really good starting point. At the same time, there were plenty of moments when I pitched up at club games or school games, and starting from the parking attendant who doesn't let you in the parking because he doesn't believe you're the referee. To the comments, as close as we're sitting, I can walk past people in the stands, and people would say loud, like, what's a woman doing at this rugby game? Is she the physio? Is she the coach? Is she dating one of the players? Just continuous things like that. But I'm very, I say determined. Some people say stubborn, but I'm very determined. If I set my mind to something, I'm going to do it. So when I started the refereeing, I'd run my first fitness test. I hadn't picked up a whistle. And I emailed Ben, and he's kept this email, and he sent it to me a little while ago. And I said to him, what are the chances, this is 2014, what are the chances that I could make the Olympic squad and referee at the Olympics and the Women's World Cup? Both like 2 and 3 years, I haven't even refed a game. And that's where I've always been. And I think that was the challenge. And I completely saw at that time, it is male dominated, but that was the system. And I realized, don't be mad at the system, but how can I make the change? And in general, I'm a pretty laid back person. And I think that's one of the things that works for me as a referee. But, when it comes to fighting for change in the system, I've learned to be louder. I've learned to stand up, because if I stand up as a woman, I'm standing up for all women.
Absolutely.
And if they can, I love the tagline, if you can see it, you can be it.
I love that.
So, just going to Currie Cup games and seeing more and more officials, women officials getting involved and things like that.
And kids, because let me tell you, I'm a dad to 2 beautiful young girls, and this year's taught them that they can do and be anything thanks to putting the TV on and there being exposure for women in sport like we've never seen. I've never seen it, and it gives me goosebumps, and it makes me so proud because my girls can watch TV. And 5-10 years ago, you couldn't put the TV on as a young girl and go, Dad, one day I want to play rugby. Dad, one day I want to play cricket. Dad, one day I want to play soccer. Why? Because national broadcasters weren't giving a woman in sport enough TV time. They weren't getting an opportunity to put a TV on and feel like they were, at 6 and 7 years old, able to do this with their lives and encouraged and inspired. So to you as a pioneer in what you're doing, this is amazing for this generation of youngsters who this morning said to me, Dad, are you going to meet a rugby referee? And is it a girl? Oh, Dad, that's so cool. So that is the kind of legacy that you're leaving. Now, I've always wanted to know, Amy, do referees get to enjoy the game? And by that I mean, like, are you so immersed in it that for a second you go like, or can you be immersed and still enjoy the game and go, geez, this is a phenomenal game of rugby, almost like from that outsider's point of view?
Yeah, I think as you progress, I'm quite comfortable with the law now. We're learning game to game and always striving to improve. But I specifically remember it was the Women's World Cup last year, and it was New Zealand, Australia, opening game of the World Cup at Eden Park. An incredible amount of spectators. I think they did sell out for a lot of the tournament. And I specifically remember just smiling, and during the game, during the this is amazing. And it was
there's pinch yourself moments where you're looking at the crowds, looking where you are and going, this is just unreal.
Yeah. And I think I've got the England-France Women's Six Nations at Twickenham. They've sold over 40,000 tickets, and I know I'm going to be smiling from start to finish. It is tough. I'm always thinking, but I'm just so privileged. I often think of my friends back home, sitting behind a desk or, haven't even left the country.
Yeah, correct. And you're seeing the world.
Running out at Twickenham, Eden Park, and all these wonderful places.
Is there a big level jump in refereeing domestic rugby and international rugby? Is it what is that jump? Is it a huge jump in terms of being an international referee compared to a local ref?
I think I'm very lucky with the exposure that I get. Rugby is almost a culture here in South Africa.
Yes,
and the level is quite high. So, reffing Currie Cup and being able to, while we had Super Rugby, I was involved in that, the Varsity Cup.
Yes.
Just really quick, exciting rugby, very physical rugby. They challenge you in the line-out and the scrums, because that's where
correct.
That's where we think we've got our strength, and we have the exciting speed in the back line. So, I think every competition brings about a different challenge, different styles of games, but that just makes it even more exciting. I'm lucky with what I get here.
You obviously work in your line of work. You talk about high pressure. You have probably the highest pressured job in the world, and you're constantly reminded of it. Do you put yourself under a lot of pressure to go back after the game and look at your refereeing, and are you hypercritical of yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think when I initially started, I'm very much a hard-working perfectionist, where I wanted to get everything right. But what I learned over time as a rugby referee, you actually don't want to get every decision, because the latest research is that we make 800 decisions in a game. So that's within 80 minutes, and can you imagine if we were stopping and starting like NFL? So it's about making the right decisions at the right time and giving the game what it needs. And I think that's the challenge for all of the games that I'm involved in.
There seems to be, in the modern game of rugby, a great relationship between the referees, the players, and the coaching staff. It's a great relationship. It's a respectful relationship. It's one that needs, obviously, input from all parties. Talk to us about that relationship. And I'm not talking so much even on the park. I'm talking off the park, where you know what players, in your back of your mind, you've seen them play before, you know what maybe some of their weaknesses are, what to look out for when it comes to, officiating a game. Is that relationship a vital cog in your on-field reffing?
Yeah, absolutely. I am, over time, I've seen the importance of just being a human being and reminding people that I'm a human being, and we are going to make one or two mistakes. Yeah. And sometimes the best way to learn is through a mistake. Yeah. And I think, often we can easily flip it back to the players to say, well, you gave away 10 to 15 penalties in this game. I made one or two errors, where are we with that? But it's actually about us serving the game. Yes. And I think it's important for me when I run out onto the pitch, it's about 15 versus 15. How amazing can I make this game? How amazing can the players play? That it's all about them. Yeah. A good friend and colleague is Jaco Paper, and I remember one of our first camps, and he said, the players are the rock stars. Yeah. And I was like, but also I'm doing an important job.
Exactly.
So if you have a great game, no one says anything about the ref. If you have a poor game, everyone says everything about the ref.
Absolutely.
So, it's just important, when we get to it's during the game, after the game, it's a very intensive review process, and they break it down minute to minute. This decision, that decision, positioning, communication skills, where can we be better? Yeah. It's just important that we kind of go forward with that, and to each game we're learning, we're human beings. Yeah. And
Jeez.
It's tough though. Very tough.
It's also, and I'll talk about being in shape, because you can never actually also have an off weekend, right? So you can never go call in sick and go, oh, guys, I don't feel like getting up today. I'm not feeling that great. I've got an injury, because all of this affects your performance out in the field, whether you can or can't go out and officiate games. And it's also tough because you don't really have a team besides your team of officials on match day. These rugby players are going to training, right, as a group of individuals to motivate one another, inspire one another. You get up in those tough mornings when it's winter and you got to go run and train, but you're doing it as a team. You almost have to train and do that in your own space all the time. How disciplined is your life in terms of getting that aspect of your career right?
Yeah, it was definitely quite tough in the beginning, but again, I remember moments, sitting down at the at one of the international airports, and Maurice van der Westhuizen and Rust and the boys were giving me a little pep talk quite early in my career, and they said, if you want to get to the Olympics, you will get up at 5, 6 a.m. You will get to your training. I really enjoy training. I enjoy challenging myself in those ways to be in peak performance as regularly as I can. Being a professional rugby referee, it's part of the job, and I think I've seen the benefits of intense training that we put in the week on the Saturday. We passing fitness tests regularly. One of my colleagues ran his fitness test this morning and he passed.
Brilliant.
I did one 2 weeks ago just before I went to the Six Nations camp in London. So it's rigorous, but there's so much value in it, because as soon as you're fatigued, your brain starts to switch off.
Sure.
And that's what we need until the 80th, 82nd, 83rd
minute. That's when you are.
Yeah. So there's just so much value in that. It's not easy.
Yeah.
I have, thanks to my wonderful neighbours, I've painted different distances in my road. So
your sprint intervals where you need to be? It's incredible.
And you've got to do what you got to do. I've made friends with the club around the corner that I can train on their fields, and you just get there and do it. And I think the more people kind of see you performing on the field, the more motivated they are to improve as well.
Do you have a ritual before you begin a game? So you're at the stadium. Do you switch off? Do you listen to music? Are you very calm? Do you like to be alone? Talk to us pre-game. What's your pre-game regime, or are you superstitious? Are you somebody who puts left boot on before right boot? Talk to us pre-game.
So I used to be, and what I saw, traveling to stadiums, different places in the world, every setup is a bit different, so you can't necessarily do the same thing. So I'm a lot more comfortable in myself and my routines that I can do it anywhere. And
got you.
And there can be a couple of obstacles along the way that you're dealing with. I remember going to one of the youth weeks and they didn't have a change room for the women, so they put me in the storage room for the tackle bags, and there's not even a bathroom and things like that. So you must adapt. And I think when we get to the stadium, you've got your normal protocols. You see the teams, you speak to the front rows about expectations, you do the coin toss, and from there it's just about a proper warm up. Because it is, we do on average 6 to 8.5 Ks a game. A lot of that's high speed running, 1.5
sprint,
Ks.
flat out, exactly. I've seen.
And we do get a pause at a scrum every now and then, which is helpful. Definitely a bit of music in the change room helps, a bit of energy.
Yeah.
But it's the reffing community they're lovely, and it's actually it's a great time just to connect, to catch up. We talk about role clarity for the game. Obviously, we've done our preparation with our assistant referees, TMO, in the week already. And it's just that moment to connect and get excited for the 80 minutes that's going to happen.
After a game? Because then, as a viewer, I've always wondered what happens to a ref after the game, because that's it. You're off the field, you're gone. Do you see the other teams afterwards? Do you go, okay, well, I'm done here? Because then you can relax. Or can you relax after the game?
It can be quite tricky because you do play a couple of decisions over in your mind.
Okay.
And what we do tend to do is have a quick team of 4 briefing after the game. Okay. What do you think about this? We go through, scrums, breakdowns, line-outs, space, foul play, and we just discuss and kind of sign off on the game.
Got you. And how long can that take? Does it vary?
It varies. I mean, my game on the weekend, England-Scotland, really not much in it, quite one-sided, really positive rugby from both teams. And there was just 1 or 2 decisions we spoke about and got clarity on, and and that was that. And then it's just really important to switch off because you're so physically drained and mentally drained.
Yes.
You need some good food. You need some downtime. There's definitely times, I know for the World Cup last year, you were absolutely buzzing.
Yes, and then you're going to try and go to sleep.
Oh, I know. Besides the pre-workout and the caffeine gum and things like that, you still do have to sleep. But I know in New Zealand, I was up till 2, 3 in the morning just like thinking that was amazing, you know?
Do you find yourself officiating games in your head at night?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I think, and it's the more comfortable you get with just running scenarios in your head, and you know the communication skills around that, you almost see it for the 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 100th time on the field. But yeah, I'm hopelessly obsessed with rugby, and I love to think about it. It is work. It's hard work, but at the same time, I'm doing what I love, and I think, you know, your high school teachers are always like, you know, pick a career that you love, and you never work in a day in your life. It's still hard work.
It's still very hard work
on a daily basis, but I love what I do, so it's much easier.
You're juggling a lot, family, professional. There's a list in Amy's life that she ticks off on a daily basis. Another one's going to be World Cup again later on this year. In terms of career going forward, are there bucket list stuff that you still want to do?
Yeah, I think I'd love to continue. I'm one of the most experienced women on the women's side in the international test.
Yeah.
So we're looking forward to the 2025 World Cup in England.
Correct, yeah.
Love to be involved in that.
Yeah.
And I think really just pushing into the, being that regular name in the URC,
Absolutely.
the EPCR, in our, featuring in the playoff games and in those competitions as well as here, Currie Cup, Varsity Cup and things like that. I think what men's World Cup is always on the radar because if I'm going to do something, I'm going all the way.
Absolutely.
So this year I think it's a bit fresh.
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to be thrown in the deep end.
Sure.
But over time in the next
it's
couple of
happen.
years, let's aim for the next one.
Absolutely.
And we go big for it. Yeah.
Young girls watching, in actual fact, young kids watching that are looking at you as a role model, they want to be the next Amy's. What would you tell a younger you that's maybe looking at obstacles in their life going, I'm at a school where they don't acknowledge young girls playing rugby. We don't have leagues. What would you tell that person, that youngster watching now? What would your words of encouragement be? Or what would you say to that young person that's going, it just feels like there's a mountain upon mountain upon mountain in front of me in terms of obstacles?
I think something that stuck with me from the beginning, it's just live the dream. I dreamt of, it was the Olympics after I watched Sydney in 2000, and I was like, that is me. And just live that dream on a daily basis. From your training, from your opportunities, you will constantly get knocked down, but I think it's a wonderful South African mindset that we are so resilient.
Yeah.
And I think it's just important that we owe it to ourselves to be the best people that we can be. So it's never easy, but it's absolutely worth it at the end of it. So I think the generation now, there's a lot more opportunities, and it's just about finding out where they are. We've got different programs. A lot of the rugby clubs in South Africa are opening up to women's teams. Yeah. It is changing. We've got the Women's Varsity Cup.
Correct.
We've got academies. We've got academies or foundations like the JAG Foundation, where they're going into schools, they're exposing girls and boys to rugby, rugby and sport, and it's just about living that dream of if you want to do it, you go out and do it. If I can make it in rugby in a completely male-dominated world, you can make it in anything.
I absolutely love that. And by the way, if you're looking, and maybe you're a corporate listening to these and you're going, we need somebody to kind of break down stereotypes in our company to the people that have overcome diversity. Look no further, ladies and gents, than trying to get some time out of her in her busy year to make sure that you can have her to come talk at your corporate event, because she's such an amazing human being. Ladies and gents, the incredibly talented, trailblazing Aimee Barrett Theron, you are a superstar. We thank you so much for joining us on this. And literally got off a plane a couple of hours ago, and she'll probably be on another plane sometime soon. So thanks for taking time out and chat with us on this podcast.
Amazing. Thank you, Ryan. Thank you, team. It's always a pleasure to share.
Stunning. Ladies and gents, give us the thumbs up, like, subscribe, share it with all your friends and family, and we'll be back with another Health Matters podcast next week.